Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being on. Sorry, I'm trying to get my slides and everything up. So running just a couple of minutes behind. We are going to get started, and let me share my screen really fast. I have several slides to get through. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get through all of them, and we'll just get to as many as we possibly can. And if you ever want these also, just let me know. We do send out the recording if you're a member of the One Team. And also if you ever want any of the stuff, hi, Patty. I usually copy it from other people, and some of it is my own. Today, I had to give more credit. So I have more stuff in here today that I've borrowed from other people. So thanks for being on, and great job investing in yourself and learning about the industry and the market. I really believe that this is what everyone needs to be focusing on right now if you are in the real estate industry. If you missed part 1 or part 2, we'll drop the recordings, the links in the chat to those. And also, you should have gotten them on a follow-up email, but if you ever need them, just let me know. So just to recap a little bit of why we're here and why we are doing this. One, it's to make you the local economist. Number 2, it's because your clients deserve your knowledge. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about that today. Number 3, you do not want to be one of the ones who waits until it's in your face and not be proactive. Or A and B, you want to be proactive. You don't want to be reactive. And honestly, a lot of what I've been studying has to do with that. It's playing offense. It's not being on the defense constantly. You're being on the offense of the market, and you know what to tell your clients because the media is crazy. I shared this morning, but I paid $4 for a New York Times article that I'm happy to share with you guys. And interesting, I don't typically read the New York Times or really any news because I just don't. But it was so interesting to me just reading through some of these articles, even how there's so many just biased opinions in there. And I'm like, man, they just threw it right in there. Like I thought we were reading about languishing. I didn't know I was reading about whether you should or should not have gotten vaccinated. So it's interesting. So you just have to be careful what you're reading and take it for what it's worth. Pull out the good in it. I wanted to leave you start with a quote that Linda McKissick shared with me this past week that really, actually, I've heard it a million times, and it just was such a great reminder. The market share that you lose in a shift, you will never get back, but the market share that you gain in a shift, you will never lose. And I really believe this. I think we need to be very open to understanding that our market share that we currently have can be at risk. And also it can be a great opportunity for us to gain more. I believe it was the last one that I wanted to share this and we didn't have time. But this is the Millionaire real estate triangle that Gary Keller has improved on over time. And it used to be, if you've read the MREA, it used to be the 3 L's: leads, listings, and leverage. And we all know that to have a successful real estate business, you have to start with leads. And then at some point you move into where you're really focusing on the listings. And then you understand that at some point there has to be leverage, and you've got to bring leverage into your world. Gary has expanded on this. And I just think it's such a great reminder, and really something that you guys should probably take a screenshot of or print, or we can send it to you and have this. I keep it in my little notebook laminated all the time with all my other little laminated things that I carry around because I'm a nerd. But you should have it in front of you all the time because one of the things that Gary always talks about is in order to be a millionaire real estate agent, you have to first think it. You have to have the mindset to think like that. Then you begin to earn it, which means you go out and gross as much as you possibly can. Then you start to net, then you move into net it, which is where you're really focusing on a P&L, you're understanding what you're netting. Then you receive it. Receive is where you start to bring in other streams of income. I know several of you that I even see on the call have gotten into rentals and short-term rentals, long-term rentals, different streams of passive income this year. And I think that's so great. I think the opportunity is going to be there even more for that. And then also you get to the top part, which is personally my favorite, which is to strategically give it. I have a huge giving goal this year. And I just think that that's such a great part of it. But what I really want you to think about is these other parts. So then Gary just really, I guess, last year or maybe year before, added these other three things. And at the bottom, it's the value proposition. This is beginning to, well, it has been increasing, but it's becoming more and more and more important. And we're going to talk about that. The customer experience. Remember, your clients don't just want a great service anymore. They want a great experience. What experience are you giving them? I think I talk about this like ad nauseum with the agents in my market centers. So sorry, guys. However, one day you'll thank me. And then on the right, your database or your data bank. And really it's your community is what Gary is calling it now. And really understanding that your value prop, the experience that you give and your database or your community, all of that underneath some sort of tech umbrella, because remember, everybody wants to do everything from this now. If you aren't being able to provide that, we're already behind. We're already behind the ball. So I just want to make sure that you guys are remembering this. I'm going to keep bringing this back up because I think it's so important. I shared a little bit of this morning. So if you were on my Wednesday morning mindset, you're going to get like 60 seconds of a repeat. But I wanted to start with this because, and this morning people did a good job of sharing. If you feel like this or have ever felt like this in the last 2 years, please just share and be real in the chat. But there's a name for the blah that you're feeling, and it's called languishing. And before we talk about the market and the industry, I really wanted to start with this because I was listening to a podcast, and I follow Adam Grant. I think he's awesome. I've read several of his books. He wrote this article in the New York Times in April of 2021, and it since then has become the most read article in the New York Times, like, I guess, ever. I don't know if the New York Times came out and said that. But it said, at first, I didn't recognize the symptoms that we all had in common. Friends mentioned that they were having trouble concentrating. Colleagues reported that even with vaccines on the horizon, they weren't excited about 2021. A family member was staying up late to watch National Treasure again, even though they know the movie by heart. Instead of bouncing out of bed at 6 a.m., I was lying there until 7 playing Words with Friends. I wasn't burnt out. I still had energy. I wasn't depressed. I didn't feel hopeless. I just felt somewhat joyless and aimless. It turns out there's actually a name for that, and it's called languishing. Languishing is a sense of stagnation and emptiness. It feels as if you're muddling through your days, looking at your life through a foggy windshield, and it might be the dominant emotion of 2021 and 2022. As scientists and physicians work to treat and cure the physical symptoms of the long haul of COVID, many people are struggling with the emotional long haul. They go on later on to say languishing is actually the void between depression and flourishing, the absence of well-being. You don't have symptoms of mental illness. You're not the picture of mental health either. You're not functioning at full capacity. Your languishing dulls your motivation, disrupts your ability to focus, and triples the odds that you'll actually cut back on your work. He goes on to say that part of the danger of this is actually that you might not notice the dulling of delight or the dwindling of your drive. You don't catch yourself slipping slowly into solitude. You're indifferent to your indifference. When you can't see your own suffering, you don't seek out help, blah, 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 blah. Then it goes down. This actually cracked me up because Adam gets so mad at me because sometimes I like to work late at night. There's a journalist, Daphne Key Lee, who actually shared a tweet from a Chinese expression that translates to revenge bedtime procrastination. She described it as, get this, staying up late at night to reclaim the freedom that you missed during the day of the busyness. Has anyone else ever done that? It's crazy. Yes, many of you are saying yes, 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 yes. Totally. Yes. I know when I read that, I was like, okay, that's me. So the whole article is about things that you can do. You need to go take some risks. You need to give yourself uninterrupted time. You need to focus on small goals. He said, not depressed doesn't mean that you're not struggling. Not burnout doesn't mean that you're fired up. We just need to acknowledge what languishing is. And so I want to share that with you because one, I have felt a little languished in the past 2 years, and I'm hoping maybe it'll help one of you. And also when we're talking about changes in the industry, thank you guys for all saying yes too. I'm not alone. When we're talking about changes in the industry, this is a huge part of it because sometimes we don't necessarily deal well with change in general, much less when we could be languishing. So I want to share 2 quotes that I found to be very helpful and especially when we're talking about changing in the market. Number 1, Wayne Gretzky, for all you hockey fans out there, all my Columbus people for sure love hockey. I skate to where the puck is going, not where it has been. And I want you to think about that in terms of the market. You might still be crazy slammed right now. I want you to think about skating to where the puck is going. And then listen what Gary said. Change is inevitable, participation is not. And what that change is not inevitable. What the change is belongs to those who create it. Be the puck. So I don't want you to feel like, the article is, there's a name for the blah you're feeling. It's called Languishing by Adam Grant. And it's in the New York Times from April of 2021. And I did have to pay $4 to get it. So I don't know, I can figure out a way to share it with you guys too. So I want you to think about changing an industry. So I've shared this before. These are the numbers that you really need to know. These are the magic numbers. And as a local economist, as a market expert, I would do everything that you could to really understand this and to memorize these. 2246. The sweet spot for GDP is 2%. Inflation, the sweet spot is 2%. Real estate, an average increase of appreciation of 4% is a good steady number. And unemployment, we want to see below 6%. Thank you, Abby, for posting that in the chat. We want to see unemployment below 6%. If we can't stay at these numbers, if we're out of sorts, if we can, then we're good, right? If we aren't, then we have a problem. And lately we have not been at these numbers. A lot of people would say we can't produce a product to keep up with the demand. There are still, I believe, a little around 2 million people shut down in Shanghai. At least that was 2 weeks ago. From COVID over there now. So that's why if you've noticed that we're not getting things like we are, I've been waiting on pendant lights for my kitchen. I'm just looking over here for, I don't even know how many months now. I did pay $4.09 for an organic red pepper at Whole Foods 2 days ago. One pepper, not per pound, one pepper. I was shocked. I'm starting to pay attention now to like, holy crap, this stuff is expensive. Are you guys feeling that? Would love to know if you're feeling the same thing. It's insane. Yes. Yep. Many of you are. Gary said he would be shocked if the negative GDP repeated itself this quarter. So just to give you, I've talked about this before, but for those of you that might've not been on, the government will say that we are officially in a recession after 2 quarters of negative GDP. Q1 of this year was negative GDP. And we'll go into those. I'm just going to share a couple of slides with you. Let me go back first. This quarter, I don't know. Gary says he'll be shocked if it ends in negative. It didn't look like it after May, but we'll see. But the point in that is that we as real estate professionals, we will feel a shift in a recession before the world will say you're in a recession. We're always the first to feel it. It's just what it is. Yeah, I'm loving that you guys are feeling the price of, yeah, it's nuts, everything. Yeah. Inflation is over 8%. Yeah. And that Stephanie's exactly right. And Gary has said this all along, until people stop spending, I mean, it's just going to keep going. However, it's hard to stop spending when you have to drive and you have to eat, you know what I mean? So it's the spending on buying new cars and going on vacations and remodeling your houses and doing all of those things. So just a couple of numbers before we kind of get into some of the nitty gritty. Unemployment in April was right at 3.6. And remember, our magic number is below 6%. So we still have a good number when it comes to unemployment. However, there are still 2 million people who retired after March of 2020 that never came back into the workforce. 2 million people in the United States retired after March of 2020, and they didn't take jobs again. And just for those of you that maybe haven't heard this, hospitality was the #1 workforce that had the most losses. More people did not come back in a hospitality field than in any other career, any other field inside of our country after March of 2022, which is also interesting. So here we are with GDP. You can see back in 2009, we had a negative year of GDP, gross domestic product. In 2020, and then in 2021, obviously we were high. We were up at 5.7. Clearly you can look back and see since 1990. Yeah, the highest that it's ever been. Gary said we want it to grow by 2%. We want to see 2% inflation, which is that magic number, and for them to kind of go hand in hand. So we'd love to see, in a perfect society, country. We'd love to see 2% inflation, 2% GDP. We'd like to see those together. Also remember that when it comes to when we do have 2 negative quarters of GDP in a row, and they do call it a recession, they won't call it until the end of Q3. So we're still about 7 months later from them saying we're in a recession to when we actually are starting to feel it. The 2 main lag indicators of a shift are contracts written and days on the market. And I would be very curious if you guys want to share in the chat to hear if your DOM, days on the market, are staying on longer than they were even 3 months ago, say. Would love to hear if you all are having listings staying on. Yep, more price reductions. Yes. Yep. So all of those are definitely direct correlation to entering into a recession. Here you can see the GDP quarterly. So Q1 of this year, we were at a negative 1.4%. Look at Q3 of 2020. It was like we went way down right when the world shut down, and then we went way up. And remember, it's interesting, but Gary always says, pay attention to the swings. If you see a swing that big from a negative 31.2 in the very next quarter to a positive 33.8, you typically know that later down the road, we're going to be feeling that or paying for that in some way because the swing is so high. Had one on the market 30 days, got multiple offers today. Angie, wow, that's interesting. That must have been a unique one, but it's crazy how that's happening. Gary always says the lack of inventory, if it doesn't stop the buyers, the rising rates will. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is the reliability forecast. And really the main thing I want you to pay attention to here is just the time frames. So as you can see, this is every time we've had a recession. This is when it officially started. This is the length of the recession. And then you can see the yield curve. So the start and the end. And it's just interesting, honestly, when I look at this to see if you go back and look at what they are calling the global financial crisis, which was 2008, which was technically the last recession that we had. And by the way, they're now saying over 70%, I've shared this with a couple of you, of realtors with NAR have never been through of the realtors with NAR now, over 70% of them have never been through a recession, meaning that they've all joined post the financial crisis recession. And so that's why we've got to continue talking about what we're talking about today, which is being a skill-based realtor and understanding this stuff. That recession lasted technically 18 months, I think. Yep, there it is, 18 months. So just being aware of this, as you can see, we typically have a recession about every 7-ish years, 7 to 10 years. So we were definitely past the time of what that looks like. Here's just a few notes. I shared this last time, but I want to make sure again, look at the link. Remember, it has nothing to do with what we feel depending on the industry we are in. Look at the global financial crisis. I'm just making sure I didn't 2 straight quarters. Yep. So I've already kind of touched on this stuff. I just wanted you to know, just to have a reminder of this, that the main thing is we will feel it before the government declares it. We felt it in 2007. The government really didn't declare it until January of 2008 last time. And we really felt it all the way until 2010, 2011, yet they said it ended in May of 2007. So it's just interesting to watch that. So just what we just talked on, same question as the last 2 months, only I added a couple. Who stopped buying groceries or gas or spending like they have been? Who is not going on vacation due to cost, or who has slowed down their spending and already started to cut expenses? Amy Dixon is saying yes. So I'm proud of you, Amy Dixon. Majority of people are probably starting to look at cutting their expenses and slowing things down. I'm not talking to a lot of people that are canceling vacations. I think we're in that we're holding off on renovation. Yep, totally. Very aware of expenses, a little cut down expenses. So this is good because this is what we need to happen. This is what you want to see happen. And this is what we need to happen as we go into a shift. Yep, long weekend, Stephanie. I think that's really good. Yes, and unless it's prepaid in cash. I like that. No vacays this year. I'm watching. Yep, totally. Yeah, so you guys are actually more ahead than I thought that you would be. Which is a good thing. We just need to be aware, right? We've got to not eating out as much. That's a huge one. We need to be aware. And this is something that we need to keep thinking about and continuing. So here's a couple key points from just the industry update. Lack of inventory. If it doesn't stop the buyers, the rising rates will. I would love to hear what you guys are seeing. I'm seeing around 6.25, at least last week, is what they were at. We are building a rental right now. That'll be on a commercial loan, and we just locked at 5.25, but also, or we're about to lock at 5.25, hopefully. And also that's with a ARM. So we're going to see a lot more people doing ARMs. I think, well, if you're not already, you'll continue to see that. The problem that we have to solve is the runaway inflation. They'll have to shock the system, and that's why they'll continue raising the rates. ARMs are better in Raleigh. Yeah, totally agree with that. Over 1 million people, this blew my mind, are in the process of getting their real estate license in May of 2022. Over 1 million people are in the process. So here's what Gary said: more people chasing less deals means the real estate industry has to make sure that they are managing their expenses. Oopsie. So good job to those of you who already are managing your expenses. But remember, that's what you got to do. I heard Gary one time say to save all your cash and manage your expenses when things are growing really great, so that when everybody's doing billboards, you're not doing billboards. And when you enter into a recession, Stephanie, you may remember this, he said, then you're the one who has the cash and you've got all the billboards when nobody else can afford it. So you've got to start managing your expenses. One of Gary's favorite quotes, and he shared it with us, is profit is made by expense management, not by gross revenue, because remember, you can spend every dollar that you make. So if you really want to worry about profit, it is only made by expense management. Yes, go gross as much as you possibly can, but your expenses are what's going to make your profit, because you can spend every dollar that you make. And I love, Jimmy McKissick shared with me one time that when they were getting out of debt, this was 30 years ago. Many of you have heard Linda and Jim's story, but when they were getting out of debt, they were $650,000 in debt, I believe it was. And when they were getting out of debt, and Linda just first got licensed, and they were continuing to gross what they could, they actually had their brokerage take out a certain percentage and put it in another account, so that they wouldn't spend it, because Jimmy said they had DMD, disappearing money disease. If it got in their grubby little hands, it was gone. It disappeared. So you've got to think about expense management. Remember, all boats float during the good times. So everybody can, this is kind of mean, but it's true. I mean, you could fog a mirror in the last 2 years and sell a house. So you just have to remember that all boats float during the good times. Do you have exactly what it takes? And are you getting skill-based enough that you can still be floating? And then the next one says, but set the stage for what's to come and be building. And that, to me, is my hope and intention for all of you guys and all the agents that are in my offices, or that have to do with our world, is to still be floating and set the stage for what's to come and just continue to be building. The greatest gain coming from a recession is the financial opportunity. People make more money in a recession than almost they will any other time if they know how to do it. If they are strategic, all of the things, right? There's so much opportunity from a recession, and you need to know the difference between being a salesperson versus a business person. Abby, would you care? Do you have that link that we could post in the chat? If you do have it, if we don't, then we'll send it to you. Some of you were on there, but Adam just did a class on that last week. If you missed it, I would highly recommend you go back and watch it. You need to know the difference between being a salesperson and a business person. And Gary said himself, he said, when we were in the room in May, he said, just so you guys know, the difference is that salespeople are huge organized messes. And I was like, okay, well, I've been guilty of that before. Yes, Patty, thanks for being on. I'm so glad that you liked it. And Hilda, the quote is, profit is made by expense management, not by gross revenue, because you can spend every dollar that you make. And it's a Peter Drucker book. Or quote, and I can't remember what book it's from, but it's from one of Peter Drucker's books. So here's the bottom line. We have been in a speed-based market, and now we will be in a skill-based market. I just was talking about this. I've talked about this like every day this week. So if I've talked to you about it and I'm repeating it, sorry. However, we have agents that have never competed for a listing before, ever. They don't know what it's like to put together a really great listing presentation and packet because they've never had to. They've just shown up and taken the listing and had pictures ready. They've never had to run comps. They've never had to have conversations around, hey, your house has been on the market for 120 days. We need to think about price reduction. And some of you may be on today, honestly, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the reality. And honestly, oh, that's great. Interviewing for Selva owner tomorrow, Stephanie. So you're already back in the swing of it. The thing is, even if you have before, you probably haven't in years. I mean, really think about those of you that are seasoned, think about the time that you actually know that you competed on a listing appointment with multiple other agents in your area. I would be shocked if it has been many times in the last couple of years. So the question that Gary is asking, two questions really, but the main one is, can you morph your business before someone else takes it? Several years, Stephanie. I was going to say, honestly, I would be shocked if it was less than 5 years, maybe 4, 3, and then the better question is, or whose business can you go buy? Are you wanting to go through another recession, another shift, in your business? The answer may be no, or it may be, heck yeah, like I'm ready and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it. I can promise you that there are people that don't want to. Some of you that are on, we've had this conversation already. So what does it look like to be able to actually go and partner with people? I think this is why we're going to continue to see more teams merging and agents merging and all of those things that you've been seeing, because some people don't want to do it again. But they have a great database too. What is the broker calls are about speed and agent not having skill to work. Yep. Angie, totally agree. Yep. Totally agree. So I've shared this book before. It's called The Innovation Stat. Gary recommended that we read this several months ago, but I just wanted to put this into perspective to you today when it comes to what I believe would be really great advice and value for you and your business. So no single innovation actually creates a moat. It's how they all multiply and stack that actually create the moat around your business. Gary said, think about this, steal someone else's idea, modify it into your world. Then when a problem occurs, you just go out and solve it. That's how every great thing has ever been invented or has ever lasted. And then that'll buy you a moat for a few years. Patterns are created every single day to solve problems. The only reason that people create things is to solve a problem. I all the time, I'm like, why in the world did I not think of creating this? Like, who thought of creating these little hair clips? Who thought of creating a highlighter? Like, if you look around, it was a problem that somebody had that they're like, man, I wish I could clip up my hair and not use a ponytail holder. Cool, here's a clip. Everything is created by problems that are solved. I want to give you an example. Type in the chat if you had a BlackBerry. This was probably my favorite phone of all time was a BlackBerry. I could like fly on those buttons with my thumbs. Sorry, you guys, Frankie's barking. I loved the BlackBerry. So many of you maybe have heard this story. I don't know if you have. Kyle, thank you. I'm so glad we're on the same page here. Yes, Andrew, love it. Yes, it was amazing. I remember going to like touchscreen. I'm like, where are the buttons? Like, what is happening to the buttons? If anybody else remembers that. Tom still has yours. Man, you can sell it on eBay for a lot, by the way. Let me tell you though, Steve Jobs, all he did was take the BlackBerry and made it better. I mean, think about it. And sorry for all you Android, if Troy Marsh is on, sorry in advance. But think about it. I'm going to use iPhone because I have an iPhone and I'm an Apple user. Tracy said, I still hate touchscreen. Think about it though. All Steve Jobs did was to innovate. He took the idea of the BlackBerry and he just stacked and made it better and better and better. To put this in another perspective, for those of you who are with Keller Williams, if you're not, that's okay. It doesn't matter. You can still be here and we love you. But I want to give you an example of this. If you are, think about what Gary did. Profit share was created. Well, after profit share was created, he said, oh crap, that means we have to be an open books company. And then after he was an open books company, he said, okay, well now there has to be an agent leadership council or a board of directors because we have to have a voice because we're an open books company. And then because of that, we had to become a training and coaching company to teach our agents to grow and be better. They all stacked on top of each other to build the moat. That's what an innovation stack is. So I want you to think about, in the change in the industry, what do you need to be doing? Like, what do you need to be looking at in your own business that you can stack and stack and stack to build a moat? I would highly encourage you. I know some of you will, and then a tech company, Stephanie, yes, you're exactly right. I would encourage you to be making a list of some of the things that you can do to stack. What do you need to come up with to build a moat around your specific business so that you can continue to get better and better? Because remember, real success comes from one-upping people, not copying them. And if you know me, you know that I'll give you anything. Like, I'll share everything I have. I could care less, because honestly, probably less than 3% of them are even going to go look at it ever again. But I know that I'm constantly innovating, and I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly one-upping what we are already doing all the time, almost to a fault. The team is like, our one team's leadership team is like, I wish she would never have another idea again for the rest of her life. However, I don't worry about people copying what we're doing, because honestly, by the time it takes them 2 years to create it, what we created for 2 years, like, we've already one-upped that. So you have to really think about, you can go get an idea from somebody else. That's how everything populates and comes to fruition. But success comes from actually one-upping that idea, just like Steve Jobs one-upped the BlackBerry with the iPhone, and then, the rest is history. So what can you start thinking about for your business? Stephanie's right. Implementation is the hardest part. And honestly, when people feel that, it's when they get to that third L, which is it's leverage, because we just can't do everything on our own. So another book that Gary, how am I doing on time? Oh, I'm doing really good. Another book that Gary recommended to us that I highly recommend to you is The Hard Thing About Hard Things: Building a Business When There Are No Easy Answers. The thing I want you to think about with this is nobody's ever been through a global pandemic that completely changed everything. I mean, really, to be honest, there have been things in the past, and we can go back and look at them. But they've all been different. We've obviously had, different times in our country where we've experienced things like this, plagues and all the things. But this one was different than anything else. So you have to think about, there really isn't an answer, right? We were just working through all of this stuff together. But the great thing about this book is there are some great answers, but you need to know the difference between being a peacetime CEO and a wartime CEO. Gary actually prefaced with us by saying, we can those of you that are really high drivers, you can get really caught up in this, and you need to make sure that you don't sacrifice your spiritual, your physical, and your relationships over anything that has to do with your business, especially when we're going into a shift, especially when you're talking about business changes. Gary looked at all of us that day and he said, I promise you that if everything went to heck in a handbag, and, I had nothing and had to file bankruptcy. He said, as long as I still have my faith, as long as my body is still healthy, and as long as I still have my wife and my son and my granddaughter, my family, he said, you don't have to worry about me. Like, I'll be fine. And he said, I just encourage you guys to get to that place too. Hopefully, not that would ever happen. However, we have to make sure, especially for those of us that are high drivers, that we aren't sacrificing those things. And remember, leaders teach people how to think, not tell them what to do. So all of this is a mindset thinking. So Gary said, how big is your box? If you look at your thinking and then your time and effort, and this is what he did with the top 200 agent mastermind that I took a screenshot of to share with you guys. If you look at how big your thinking is and you look at how big your time is, and then you take the what, the how, and the who, kind of what Stephanie just said, it's the implementation, right? So what, and then how, and then who's going to do it. The bigger that your thinking is, the more time and effort you have to spend, and the bigger that the box gets of the what, the how, and the who. And that creates your actions. So you can have, if you have a small thinking, small time and effort spent, small what, small how, small who, you're going to get a small outcome. If you have big thinking and you have a lot of time and effort, and your what and your how and your who box are huge, then you're going to have a big outcome. So you have to think about, how big is your box? So when you also, let me go back to that 1 second. When you're talking about how big your box is, everybody's going to be different. Like, it doesn't mean that, everybody's has to be huge. It's what your definition of success is. and what you feel like is important to you. So I want to share a couple slides. I think these originated from Adam Hergenrother, and then Gary shared them, and then we shared them. So this is what this book is all about in a nutshell, but still you should 100% go and read it. Is this peacetime or wartime? Peacetime in business is generally when a business has a competitive advantage and its market is growing. Wartime in business is when the business is facing an immediate threat from a competitor, the economic climate, or a major market shift. So I would hope that you all would agree that we are probably in the latter right now. Our economic climate shows that we are going to experience and already are a major market shift. And we do have threats from competitors. I'm not talking about the competitor down the street or another brokerage across the road. I'm talking about Quicken, Redfin, the company that starts with a Z and rhymes with Billow. I'm talking about all the companies that want to cut the real estate agent out of the transaction. That is our competition. That is what you need to think of when you think of competition. You don't need to think about, the Remax down the road or whoever it is, whatever your competition is that you have. So I'm going to share with you several different slides around the peacetime leaders versus wartime leaders and CEOs. And here's what I want you to remember. Tony DeCello asks the best question. When you wake up every morning and you roll out of bed and your feet hit the ground, do you think of yourself as a realtor, or maybe you're an ops manager or whatever it is, or as a business owner or someone running a business? And that's a great question. And remember, when you're a CEO, all of you guys are, because you are in the business. So peacetime CEO knows that proper protocol leads to winning. A wartime CEO violates protocol in order to win. A peacetime CEO focuses on the big picture and empowers their people to make detailed decisions. A wartime CEO cares about a speck of dust on a gnat's ass if it interferes with the prime directive. These are coming from Ben Horowitz and Gary, by the way, not from Dana Gentry, but that is a funny one. But think about it. It's a big difference. Peacetime CEO builds scalable, high volume recruiting machines. Wartime CEO does that, but also builds organizations that can execute layoffs. Peacetime CEOs spend time defining the culture. Wartime CEOs lets the war define the culture. A peacetime CEO always has a contingency plan. A wartime CEO knows that sometimes you got to roll a hard six. A peacetime CEO knows what to do with a big advantage, and a wartime CEO is paranoid. And I love this one particularly because I feel like sometimes we don't think that leaders can be paranoid. And that's not the case. When you're in a wartime position, you can be paranoid, and you should be paranoid. You should be looking at what's happening. A peacetime CEO strives to not use profanity. A wartime CEO sometimes uses profanity purposely. Gary gave a great example of this, and actually, I don't even know if I have it to share with you, but it was funny, honestly. And I'll try to find it and come back to it. Okay. Peacetime CEO thinks of the competition as other ships in a big ocean that may never engage. A wartime CEO thinks the competition is sneaking into her house and trying to kidnap her children. So it's a different way of thinking. Peacetime CEO aims to expand the market. A wartime CEO aims to win the market. A peacetime CEO does not raise their voice. A wartime CEO rarely speaks in a normal tone. Peacetime CEO works to minimize conflict. A wartime CEO heightens the contradictions. There's a big difference in that, because remember, most people run away from conflict. They won't. Your natural, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, is to avoid conflict. I can't think of the word. A peacetime CEO strives for broad-based buy-in. A wartime CEO neither indulges consensus building nor tolerates disagreements. A peacetime CEO sets big, hairy, audacious goals, but a wartime CEO is too busy fighting the enemy to read management books written by consultants who have never managed a fruit stand. Some of these are hilarious. Instinct, thanks. Yes, thank you, Christina. Instinct. Yep, that's the word I was looking for. Peacetime CEO trains their employees to ensure satisfaction and career development. A wartime CEO trains their employees so that they don't get their ass shot off in the battle. A peacetime CEO trains their Oh, that's in here twice. Gary must have really liked that one. Peacetime CEO has rules like we're going to exit all businesses where we're not number one or number two. A wartime CEO often has no businesses that are number one or number two, and therefore does not have the luxury of following that rule because they're trying to keep up, right? So think about, are you naturally more of a peacetime or a wartime leader? And I would say, as Gary shared with us, naturally, we're probably more of a peacetime leader because maybe we haven't ever had to be a wartime leader. And think about just your own business. Naturally, you probably are that of a peacetime, not a wartime. But you have to think about that. And here's what he said: a warrior's mentality is a strong back and an open heart. And I love that so much. I found so much value. We will email these out. Regine, to everybody who registered. So we'll send you these. I think I'm allowed to send them. I'm pretty sure. If we don't, I'll let you know that I'm not allowed to, but I think it'll be okay. But I love this for you and your business. And I want you to think about that. And it's not to come from a scarcity place. It's to say, hey, in 3 years, I don't ever want anybody to look up and say, man, nobody told me that we were going to be in a recession and I had to learn how to do this stuff. So what can you do today? You need to keep learning. You need to stay relevant. You need to be the market expert. You need to be the local economist, and you need to focus on the consumer. I have been doing a lot of masterminds. I had another call this morning with some top experts inside of our company. And I believe that we're going to see a huge shift to consumer continuing to have, or the consumer growing more into having more of the power. In the past, it's been more of the agents kind of have the power and hold the keys. I really believe that we're going to continue to see the consumer having more of the power. However, I do think that the agent will always be belly to belly with the consumer. So many of you know the 12 tactics. I just want to share them in case you don't know them. The things that you really need to be focusing on right now are get real, get right. That's why it's number one. You need to get your mindset in the right place. And I'm so grateful for those of you that take the time to be on these every month. I promise you that because you are, and if you do the things, you will come out ahead of the people that are not, or that have their head in the sand. You also need to be remargining your business. Number two, I love that many of you already are. Megan, I'll go into that in 1 second. Great question. You need to be remargining your business. Focus on your expenses. I also had a really great conversation with Linda. We just recorded a podcast on just talking about going into a shift. I think it's going to come out next week or the following week. But the one thing that I shared with her that I loved, and I just heard this, is automatically we think that we have to cut out of our office and get rid of our coaching and stop spending money on our marketing and stop doing all this stuff when we say cut your expenses. I want you to hear that there is a difference in different things that are expenses and that are investments. And you definitely need to know the difference of that. And also, I had a really great aha this week. I heard this from somebody else. I did not get this. I wasn't smart enough to get it. But if you have a really great personal budget, and you can cut some things out of your personal budget that you might not need. I don't remember who it was, but I loved that somebody said they're not eating out as much. It's hard for all of us to do those things. I totally understand. It's just as hard for me. And if you can cut things out of your personal business or personal budget first, you might not have to cut as much out of your business, because could you live on a little bit less for a year or 2 years so that you could keep pouring into your business? The answer is yes, you probably could. You just have to know what it is first. And then the other one that I want you to think about right now, skipping down to, is number 9, and that's creating urgency. We need to really help our buyers right now overcome reluctance, and we need to really be creating urgency with our buyers as the rates are rising. Not because the rates are being so high that they'll never buy, right? I know some of you that are even on today have shared with me that when you got into real estate or when you bought your first house, rates were 18. Linda said, I think they were 17 and a half, if I remember correctly, or something like that. When she started. Gary, I think he said they were 23, maybe, I don't remember percent. People will still, oh, I wish I could remember this. I've been trying to remember this all week. If anybody can think of the 5th one, like, you get a major prize. But the 5 Ds, diplomas, diapers, divorce, death, and there's one more, and I cannot think of the 5th D. But there are reasons, there are 5 Ds of why people will always buy and sell. We need to, did somebody get it? Deliveries, Sarah, that's diapers, I think. Babies. Divorce, yep, I had divorce. I don't know. We'll keep thinking about it. Debt, Amy, that could be it. That if it's not, it should be one, could be one. Great. That's a great guess. We need to create buyer urgency right now because people will always continue to buy and sell. Death. Yeah, Tina, that was one. Divest. I don't know, guys. I'm going to squirrel on this for too long. I'll keep looking and think. I don't think it's disease. Okay, we'll keep thinking. Keep typing them in the chat. But just remember, by every point that the rates go up, that decreases your buyer's borrowing power. So the biggest difference is, yes, they can still buy with higher rates. It's what can they buy, and it's can they buy what they want, and that's usually the biggest question. So a couple of things just to round out this. These are the 6 that Gary said that you need to be also focusing on right now. Set your mind and take the right actions, manage your expenses, do more with less, prioritize your leverage and focus on it. I've heard a lot of people are saying that they are like adjusting salaries for their top people, and then they're cutting less productive people and going to VAs. Virtual assistants. I think that we could continue to maybe even see that. I don't know for sure. Find the motivated, up your lead generation numbers. Gary said, whatever you're doing lead generation wise going into a recession, you should double it. Use effective MOFers. I'm working really hard in July to have a panel of people who offer great MOFers, to just have a panel about MOFers. If you have or are on a team or even are an individual producing agent, MOFers should be a part of your conversations. Make offers for immediate response. Stephanie, I just shared this on the podcast, you'll remember, but there's an agent in our territory, in our market, named Deuce Kirk. And for years, he was known as 99, the 99 guy. His license plate said 99, his billboard said 99, his cars said, everything said 99. And if I think back, he was doing a MOFer in 2007, 2008. If he didn't sell your house in 99 days, he would buy it. And that's a make offer for immediate response. That is the agent making an offer to the consumer for them to give you an immediate response. Disillusionment. What does that mean? Does anybody know that? Oh, I don't. I'll have to Google that. Yeah, that's a great, but thank you for looking it up. That's a great idea too, Hilda. She said, rewrite your job descriptions and give job evaluations to your staff. Make the necessary cuts now. Totally agree with that. Get to the table, just master your conversion conversations, and then help sellers adjust. I know some of you have already put this in the chat, but we're already having to have price reduction conversations. We're already needing to set the right expectations with our sellers that you're probably not going to get 68 offers when we list your house today. That's the reality. Use the pricing, condition, and staging as weapons of mass sales success. And then this is the one I would love for you to take a screenshot of this or draw it or write it down or something. But you need to be thinking about how to make customers sticky and maximize your referrals. This is why we've been implementing in our content. Hold on. Sorry. I got to read what this says. When the hard truth of reality makes you lose faith in your dreams. Oh, okay. I can see that actually being a reason why people would still want to buy or sell. That's interesting. I want you to think about this one, and you need to be thinking about, we've talked about this before too, what unique information, what unique access, and what unique services are you providing not only during your transaction, but after the transaction. I have a goal of working on some sort of a program for our market centers. This is one of my ideas that come like every 10 minutes, always thinking, but is that what would it look like if we were able to offer these great unique services to all the consumers because they were working with our company and coming up with a list of what all those things are. And we've already started this and we're in the process of this, right, of building this out right now, that every person that is a real estate business owner should be doing the same thing. And remember the sentence, because you do business with me, blank. Like, because you are a client of mine, blank. What does that look like? Write those down. Because you are a client of the Kellerman Group, you have access to blank. You get the service of blank. I just told Adam, we're in this like crazy countdown till our wedding, and which is just like small family and really close friends. But we're having a little event at our house in Charleston the night before. And the other day I was like, golly, our windows are so dirty. We keep making this ongoing list of all these things that have to be done before August. And I remember Jason Abrams saying that one of the large teams, I don't remember which one it was, said, what they said, their big unique service for the year was window washing. Because you were a client of theirs, they hired a window washing company, and they were sending them around to wash the exterior of all their clients' houses' windows right before summer, like right when the summer months came on. And I thought, man, that's so good. Like, you can't tell me that if you were the client and your doctor sent a window washer to your house, that you're not like, man, I'm sending everybody I know to that doctor. Of course you would. Yes, that's right, Tracy. And then he bought the company. Yes, I'm so glad you said that. I forgot that part. So you have to think about, what is it that you can provide that is unique information. Unique information is probably them hearing about the market before they're hearing it from Zillow, or them knowing that they're getting a neighborhood nurture on command before they're hearing from, whoever, realtor.com, that their next door neighbor's house just came on the market. Give them unique information, give them unique access, and then give them unique services. What is it? What is it that they get to be a part of because they are a client of yours? Oh, perfect. Thank you, Abby. Abby just posted in the chat the Are You a Salesperson or Business Owner recording. If you guys want to go watch that from the YouTube. So this slide was an eye opener for me, because I think a lot of times we think about this only after the transaction, and we don't think about it during the transaction. And so I want you guys to noodle on that. And I'm doing the same, but what could that look like for you during the transaction? And then in wrapping up, I like to share, I didn't ask Mike for permission. I hope this is okay. Sorry, Mike, if you're watching, but you do such a great job. I wanted to brag on you. I like to share agents who are doing this, and they're being the expert. And Mike sends these economic charts I'm on his email list, and I love getting them. I read them every single time he sends them. And it's just quick and easy. I think on the last time I showed you an example of Jonathan Crompton's, and his was a video and then a lot of information in an email. I wanted to share with you Mike's because they're short blips. And I love how he does this. The charts I collected this week, let me know what you think. Here's the positives, here's the neutral, here's the negative. Gas prices are falling slightly, better than rising. Crude oil prices falling. Mortgage applications up for second week in a row. Fertilizer prices falling. Neutral. Housing inventory on the rise, good for buyers. Price reductions are listed for listed houses are increasing, good for buyers. Warning sign for housing. So he's giving them little blips. Negatives, U.S. strategic petroleum reserves are falling fast and may hit a 40-year low. Canadian housing prices are skyrocketing, and I have several friends who sell in Canada, and that is a fact. And Americans aren't living as long as people in other developed countries. And then he said, no, this week's report probably has the most positive versus negative ratio since I started sending these about 9 months ago. I hope the trend continues. You can go to somebody like Troy Marsh, who gets very detailed with his updates and examples that he sends, pulling out charts and colored arrows and all the things. And then the highlights: inventory up slightly, depends on day of the week. Pendings up year to date. Solds are down, likely due to lower inventory. So I want to share these with you because, one, I love seeing people. I love seeing those of you that are doing these, especially in our offices, because I just think it's amazing. Two, if you do these, please add me to your email list, because I like to get them and see them, and I love to follow what everybody's doing. And three, if you aren't doing something like this, you should be doing something like this. It doesn't matter if it's a full long MailChimp with a video like Jonathan Crompton. It doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bullet points like Mike Schoonover, or if it's an actual chart with colored arrows and percentages like Troy Marsh. You do you, do what you're going to do. If you're never going to do this chart, then don't attempt it. If you're never going to make a video about it, then don't attempt it. Whatever you are going to do, just do something. Is this the one that you were asking about? Yes. Okay. Amy, will you type Mike Schoonover's email in the, do you have it? Could you just type it in the chat? Everybody, he's going to absolutely murder me for this probably. But I would email him and ask him if you can be added to his list. And I'm sure he would actually love to do it. He's the most sharing and kind person. So I'm sure he would love for anybody to ask him. And also I've given Jonathan Crompton, thank you so much. Perfect. I've given Cromptons out before, and Troy would help anybody too. So just in closing, and then since we have 3 minutes left, I can't believe I ended a couple minutes early. I want to remind you, when we talk about the virtual assistants, we've had so many questions. Thank you, Amy, so much. Thank you. Thank you. We've had so many questions on how to hire and train a virtual assistant. Craig Goodlife is a friend of mine. He's been in the KW network forever. He's an amazing coach, and he created and is the CEO of Cyberbacker, I believe one of the most successful VA companies that's out there. And he is jumping on for us to do a quick training tomorrow. Actually, Thursday, is that tomorrow? Yeah, Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can just go to kw1teamzoom.com. You can sign up for that if you want to hear. I just figured, like, I'm not the one to teach you guys that. And he created it and is now franchising it and scaling it at a massive level. So if anybody can tell you how to do it, it's going to be Craig. And you will, I wanted to go to the best of the best for you guys. So hop on that. And then also, if you are still looking to build a team or thinking about building a team, or you just want to figure out the leverage of building a team, next Monday, the 27th, we are having these 3 awesome individuals, Rob Gaines, Jenny Mattiok, and Ryan Conway, share about actually building a team following the MREA model. And I would love and suggest for you guys to hop on there. And so, okay, in the minute that we have left, for those of you that are still on, I would love any questions or feedback or thoughts or comments or ahas in the chat. And is this helpful? Should I keep doing these? All the things. Would love that. Thank you, Stephanie and Stephanie. Susan, yes, awesome. Okay. And any questions too? I got your thinker going. Perfect. That's the goal. That is the goal. Oh, yes. Sorry. I forgot, Meg. Sorry. Okay. She said really fast, what did you mean by consumer having the power? What I mean by that is pretty much because of this and because of the internet, right? In the past, remember, consumers relied on real estate agents. We sent them the listings. We found the houses for them. We had more of the power and the control over this. As we move to the future, many of you are seeing, like, clients, they just send us something that they found online and say, hey, I want to see this house. Or they're doing their own research now more than they ever have. And because of that, it shifts the power over. So they don't have to rely on us as much. However, just keep in mind, they still want a person. They still want a belly to belly relationship. We just have to be there more for them. We have to get much more, in community, I guess, is really the best way to say it. I mean, we have to be the everything to them. They have to want to come to us because they want to refi, because they want a painter, or because their garbage disposal is stopped up and they don't know who to call. I mean, honestly, you really want them to be, dependent. I kind of hate that word. But really, it's true. Stephanie, would you agree? You want them to kind of be dependent on you because they can find so much on the internet now. It's made a shift in power. If that helps, hopefully. Got it. Okay. Makes total sense. Awesome. Yes. Yep. Add all the value that you possibly can. I just heard somebody else yesterday saying every time they have a closing, they're getting a free Domino's pizza delivered during the move. It's just so many things that you can do. You just have to come up with the plan for it. So thank you guys for being on, and we will send the recording, invite a friend next time. We'll definitely do it again next month. And oh, thanks for being on. Awesome. Yep. Oh yeah, Susan, great point. Home buyers are doing incentives again too. Okay, guys, go take some market share, and thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day. See ya. Thanks, guys. See you. Bye.